Everybody, brave the storm. Thank you so much for coming out. As you know, the Marriage Ministry is sponsoring this event this evening, and this is the first of a series of financial workshops because, our pastor has been teaching and talking about money and finance for a while to get our financial homes in order. And the first step of that is knowledge, to have the knowledge and then to discipline ourselves to execute, the things that we're going to be learning this evening. And so we're going to be talking about credit and budgeting this evening. And before we get started, we're going to have a word of prayer.
Thank you. We bow your head. Father, we come to you giving you honor and glory and praise. And we thank you for how you have provided for us and how you continue to provide for us. We thank you for the safe arrival of those who's coming, and we ask that you would cover us as we leave and go home later. We thank you, Father, for the word we're about to receive. We ask that you open our hearts and minds to receive the information and knowledge. And we'd like to thank you and give you honor and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, thank you. So with that, Gail Johnson.
Thank you. If I need this mic, if not, I'll just try to walk around and just speak loudly, I hope. But thank you so much for the invitation to allow me to be with you this evening. We're going to cover a couple topics. As you see on the wall there, this program is sponsored by Ally Financial and the Links Incorporated. And tonight we're going to go over two modules, budget and credit. But before we do that, I just want to make sure everyone got the little gift we have for you tonight. Hopefully, if you're over 50, you received the little ARP pamphlet. And what this will be for you, if you complete this, is a free ARP membership. And more importantly, even if you have an ARP membership already, you can get one free year renewal. So we really encourage everyone to complete this, and this is our gift for you for the evening for just coming out. All right? So we'll have an informal session. I'm going to go through the PowerPoint just to give us a little structure, but please raise your hand, stop me at any point, ask any questions. Paycheck handles this, and this first of the month we take care of this obligation, end of the month we take care of that. And that's very, very good. That's certainly a beginning. But a formal budget, something that's on pencil and paper, gives you that extra. It helps you go to that next level when you have it in writing. What do you think is in the process of committing it to writing? What does that do to you? Gives you accountability. You can go back to it and see, did I make my plan? Where do I need to make some adjustments, etc. So all of you who have a mental budget, give yourself a round of applause. All of you who are going to commit after tonight to have a written budget, we're just going to go high five because that's where we want to go to the next level, okay? All right. So let's just go over some basic information. I'm going to start with talking about what really gets hard in budgeting is sticking with the needs versus the wants. We'll take care of all the needs, food, shelter, clothing. We're going to do that, right? The basics. But the next thing that kind of can throw holes in our budgets from time to time is how we handle those wants. Handling the wants. So we're going to talk about preparing a budget, the different sections of a budget, helping you stick to a budget, fixing an unbalanced budget, and building an emergency savings plan. How many people know things come up unexpected? Yeah, and if we plan for it, it doesn't have to rock our world necessarily, right? Absolutely. Okay. So let's go over some quick terms. What is a budget? Anybody want to venture a guess what a budget is? It's just really something, it doesn't have to be a title or a word that scares you, but it's just kind of our sources of income and our outgoes. And then hopefully there's something left, but more importantly, something that you have a plan. And I'm so excited that Patricia told me, Gail, we're in the house of the Lord tonight, and I'm a first lady in my church in Cincinnati. And I've done this with my church. So I feel really free to talk about some of the things that also should be in our budgets when we are members of God's church. Because he does have some rules and regulations and things he wants us to do to be good stewards with the good gifts he does provide for us. So we'll touch upon that too, okay? Alrighty, so budget is nothing more than just a formal plan of what you're going to do. How about a down payment? When you're thinking about a big obligation, what would be a down payment be useful for? A car, a home, okay, a car, a home, or any obligation that you're going to do, you maybe want to consider planning for that and developing a down payment before you go into that. Your gross income is going to be everything before Uncle Sam gets his piece of the pie, your gross income. And your gross income, when we're talking about budgeting, is obviously if you're a wage earner, things you earn on your job, but also if you have investments, if you have rental property, part-time job, things like that. We want to make sure that goes into your budget too. Net income, of course, is after taxes, and we get paid in a couple of different forms. Sometimes we might get paid once a month, we might get paid bi-monthly, we might get paid semi-monthly. So just some quick glossy of terms. So needs versus wants. You see some pretty pictures there, some things that we really, really like. We see golf clubs and technology and watches and automobiles. But we must make sure that we focus on differentiating those and having some discipline if we want to move our finances to the next level. So let me give you a little pop quiz, and I need your participation here. I'm going to help you decide on a normal day which one of these things would be needs versus want. For example, public transportation. Would that be a need or a want? A need. It would be a need. And I was talking to the gentleman here who was from Staten Island. In New York City, do a lot of people have a car?
No.
No. So public transportation really is a form that most people get around in a big city. In Dayton, Ohio, most of us probably don't, after a certain point, necessarily move around on public transportation, right? So we use public transportation as well as we may use our automobiles, all righty? So transportation via car, is that a need or a want? Need. Yeah, in Dayton, most of the time, most of us are going to need to transport via car, but we can, of course, rely on public transportation. Now, transportation with new car, with leather seats and a GPS system, is that a need or a want? That's a want, okay. So we can see a difference. You know, having a basic transportation is definitely a need, but we go into the luxury automobile or the new automobile with leather seats and GPS, not that anything's wrong with that, but we do know that that is necessarily somewhat in more of the want category. All right, so we're talking about transportation. Let's move over to the food category. How about food for lunch? Need or want? Need. Definitely a need. You want to keep your energy high. You don't want to have any blood sugar spikes and things like that. How about a soup and salad, appetizer from the trendy restaurant around the corner? That's a want. All right. So one of the basic places we can always decide to make some differences between packing our lunch and going out to lunch is that a place in our budget that we can maybe save some money? Absolutely. All right, again, clothes, need or want? Need. Clothes for work, need or want? Need. For sure. Different designer shoes and matching handbags for each day of the week, need or want? Want. Okay, now is there anything wrong with wanting some of those things? No, nothing's wrong with it. Providing when we get to the budget session, that says that everything lines up with your current situation, that you can do those things as well as the basics. Very good. Got an A. Okay, so starting to prepare a budget, we want to understand what's coming in. What are all of our sources of income? And next, of course, what's going out. And then we're going to enter this onto a worksheet. Now, I passed everyone out a little workbook. I want you to have out the one that says budget. And on the page that you see that has the lines and categories, that's the part we're going to focus on to kind of introduce it to you and maybe for you to take it home to go into a little additional detail. Alrighty? Okay, so what is your income? We want to focus on your take-home pay, interest from any savings accounts, any cash gifts, tips, bonuses, alimony, child support, anything and everything that you can count on a regular basis, you want to put in your worksheet to say what is my gross and available income in preparing my budget. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, great. All right, then next, most of us want to look on a budget at least on a monthly basis. Does that make sense? Because most of our big obligations such as housing and car payments and things like that generally come across monthly. So to make sure that we can do that on an organized fashion, we want to convert everything to a 12-month cycle. So for example, if you're paid weekly, we want to take that number and make sure we get that divided by 52. Bi-weekly, we would do 26, and semi-monthly, 24. So we want to put everything on this worksheet into a monthly column. Get some more people coming in. Wonderful. All righty, now, in talking about our expenses, we have about 4 major categories for expenses. Fixed expenses. What would be a fixed expense? Mortgage, rent, okay. Insurance. What type of insurance? Car and house. Life insurance possibly. Okay, those would be fixed expenses as well. Okay. So let's talk about variable expenses. Someone said utilities. Let's talk about that one. This is going to be the winter months. Are we ready for some winter utility bills? Whether we're ready or not, they're coming, right? Whether we're ready or not, they're coming. And utility bills can be handled 2 ways. They can be handled as a variable expense where CG&E or, what do we have here? DP&L and Vectron. I live in Cincinnati, in between both. What have you. They're going to send you a bill, but some people also may opt to go for level billing. So level billing may give you a little more predictability on what my bill will be in the summertime or the winter time. But will level billing still have some surprises potentially? How so? At the end of the year, you kind of have a catch-up kind of payment if you aren't monitoring it, or if their estimates are really very off, or your usage changed from 2013 to 2014. You might have more people in your house, or you might even have less people in your house. Someone goes to college and not taking as many showers and leaving the heat up at 90 degrees. You might have some savings there, who knows? All right, so your variable expenses can change. How about flexible expenses? What would go in that category? Things that you have some flexibility.
Entertainment.
Entertainment, great example. Anybody else can add to that example?
Grocery bill.
Grocery bill, all right? Heard a voice. Hobbies, okay, what's some hobbies that you might want to have in that category? Fishing, all right. And hobbies are great for our recreation and for our mental spirits, etc. But it is important that we do budget that. Because would you say that's possibly where we have a lot of money that kind of floats out that we don't account for sometimes?
Yeah.
In those hobbies? Absolutely. So committing it to paper. And then the last one, it says unexpected. But when you know things happen, do you plan for the unexpected? Yes. So we know unexpected things happen, but what would be an example of an unexpected expense? Car repair. Hot water heater goes out. Furnace goes out. Pipes are frozen. Even a snowstorm when you hadn't gotten the salt or the snow blower and those kind of things, you had to run out and get that. Those are all unexpected expenses because you didn't have those line items for every single month. But we're going to plan in our budget for the unexpected so we can handle that and not have unnecessary stress or anxiety. Like the person in the picture, they look a little stressed there with all those bills there. Okay, so we've talked about understanding how much money is going out, and we're going to decide on the categories these fall into. So I think we talked about this a little bit already. So mortgage or rent, what category would that be? Fixed? Good, okay. Car payment and auto insurance. I want to talk about auto insurance. One of my businesses, I work at the courts. And we have a program for people who get in trouble with their driving. And it may be OVI or too many points or not driving with insurance. Is auto insurance a flexible bill that you can pay when you want to and when you don't want to? Absolutely not. Driving is a privilege and a responsibility. And if you do operate a car, you have to look at auto expenses, just like the roof over your head, etc. It's not something you can decide to pay occasionally. Auto expenses, if you have a car, is definitely a fixed expense. Utility bills, we touched upon that. Telephone bills, including cell phones. How many people still have a landline? Okay, a lot of people. How many people only have a cell phone? Okay, it's changing. The numbers are really changing. More and more people are going to just a cell phone. So would you categorize a telephone bill as a fixed expense or a variable expense? Okay, pretty much it can be fixed. But of course, if you went over your minutes or your plan, or you downloaded something you weren't thinking about, etc., then you could also have a variable charge. So when we say that depends on your behavior during the month. It could be fixed, but if you did some extra things or got outside your plan, etc., it could become a variable as well. Cable bill. Is that a necessity or a luxury? It's a luxury, okay? And you can start with what? Basic cable and all the way up. So that is definitely a luxury. Insurance, we talked about it here. It could be homeowners, it could be auto, it could be life insurance. Child care bills, is that a fixed or variable expense? Could be variable, but if a person is going to work and they know that I'm depending on that to be able to go to work every single week, it would probably be fixed for a lot of people. Exactly. Now, child care for entertainment, to go out for the weekend or to do something special, that would be variable. But child care for going to work, we would probably plan that to be a fixed expense. Very good. Entertainment, of course, is variable, and repairs are variable. You all did great. Okay, so when you want to get really serious about tracking your expenses and getting on a better budget, the first thing you have to do is try to identify everything that you spend. And I mean everything. You know, you should get out a little tablet or on your cell phone or your notes and write down everything that you spend. Keep every single receipt because, again, we know the big things. We know the insurance, the car payments, etc. But the hobbies and the entertainment, and I love Starbucks. And my husband tried to shame me by starting to call it $5. Because, you know, you can go in there and buy a latte and it's not much shy of $5. So he starts saying, oh, you're stopping by $5 again. He said it so many times that made me reconsider that discretionary expenditure. But when you think about that, a latte for $5, if you do that multiple times a week, could that be little money you could easily cut down on? Yeah, how many other kind of things like that can you identify real readily that just kind of escape from our budget without thinking about it? Give me some other examples. Fast food. Fast food. Well, fast food's pretty economical, the dollar bill and all those kind of things. But if you do it every day, or I'm driving home and I'm just so tired, I just don't feel like cooking right now. I have food at home. And I take the luxury of just... So that's exactly another way that money can go through our fingers really, really without thinking about it. Okay, so food, entertainment, things like that. So track everything. And keep it for a couple weeks, and then start to arrange it in categories to kind of see where your money is going. You really, really, really want to keep those receipts and analyze it. And then we're going to move to the budget worksheet and put it down. Now, look, even in this Ally financial book, on the right-hand side, it has a line item that says gifts and charity. Gifts and charity. Then they break it down to go church and charity. So as a congregation and a body of believers, we want to make sure when we're formalizing our budget that we have something on that line item for sure. And that could be gifts, it could be offerings, it could be tithes, it could be special efforts. When you're committing to your budget, this should be the first place that you go. That category. To decide how much am I going to give back to God. Because we all know everything that we have belongs to who? God. And everything that we receive comes from. God. And what is our minimum service? Our minimum service. 10% I heard up here, our minimum service is 10% to give back. So that should be the first place that we go when developing our budget to determine what we're going to give back. When I work with young children and talk about financial literacy, I usually try to break it down like this, and it works for adults too. You want to take your youngster who has an allowance and say, hey, I want you to have 3 categories that you're going to spend your money in. Something for now, meaning you can do whatever you want to within reason. Something for later, teaching them the principle of sharing and planning and saving. But most important, something to share. And that whole sense of teaching them to share at an early age, and meaning to give, to the community, to the church, to give back, is a principle that will stay with them for a lifetime. And those same principles apply to us that have the ARP cards too. Same ones, we can take those same principles. Alrighty, so on this worksheet, again, we want to put down everything: paycheck income, freelance income, Social Security, rental income, and then say, what do I have to work with? And then break down all these various categories. And then the bottom line on this category is going to say the right column total, the left column totals, and hopefully we're in a place where income, less expenses, and some dollar amount provides for savings. Okay, so this is something I want you to take home and work with. I did this with my church for the last couple weeks, and I'm really excited because a couple times I'm walking down the aisle, and people said, you know, I'm starting to look at where I'm spending. And a couple people brought my receipts and showed me a couple more things. So I'm going to challenge you all to show these to Lady Patricia, to the pastor, to the youth pastor. You all keep them accountable to see if you're keeping their receipts and looking at it and see what they've done just in the next month. Is December a month coming up that can get some people in a lot of trouble? It's just another month, in a sense, from a spending standpoint. Why does December become such a stressful financial time? So Christmas, sale, Thanksgiving. From now on, Thanksgiving is next week. All right, so it really takes a lot of extra discipline to decide what we're going to do and stay away from doing unnecessary wants, or getting really, really into the pressure of doing the big Christmas and all those kind of things. When my daughter was young, she gave me this one pillow that I remember, and I always try to remember that, particularly in stressful financial times. It says, Moms Makes Memories. Moms Makes Memories. And so when you're working with your children, how many people remember what they got for Christmas last year? How many? Okay. Not many people. Few people remember. How many people got something for Christmas last year? Okay. So we get these gifts and we do all the shopping and all the running around and things like that, but a memory is much more lasting. Things that you did as an event or as a family, or a story that you shared, or you went to the soup kitchen and did something different. Those are things that are much more lasting, and I guarantee you'll remember that next year. Compared to the ribbons and the bows that get tossed, and we don't remember that. So really try to think about the memories and things like that, in addition to the gifts. Okay, great. Now, in structuring a budget, there's some basic guidelines, and these are going to change depending on the part of the country that you live. But pretty much these are pretty good guidelines, I think, for in Ohio. About 1/3 of your income should be allocated to housing. And by housing, we mean the rent or the mortgage, as well as the things that go along with maintaining the house, such as the utilities and the upkeep and things like that. So about 1/3 of your budget should go on the housing allowance. For transportation, about 15%. Now, if you commuted between Dayton and Cincinnati, would that probably be higher? Yeah, so, depending on your job, but if you didn't have a long commute, you might be even a little bit lower. So, but a basic benchmark would be about 15%. Now, on this slide, it doesn't have amount for giving, but it has amount for saving. So we want to aim for 5 to 10%. Does that sound reasonable? 5 to 10% should be the amount we should go for savings. And then, of course, we touched upon the amount for giving. So that's the basic categories for the budget. Now, sticking to a budget, I think everybody in here could become your new partners to help you be accountable for sticking to a budget. Maybe you might want to share one goal with someone in the room about something you're striving to do. It may be a debt you want to pay off. We were talking before we got started. She said she wanted to start doing some college savings. I think, was it for a nephew? For a cousin. Okay, so we're going to look into some 529 plans for her. So something's powerful about saying what you want to do to another person out loud, and for that person to encourage you, that person to walk along with you, that person to keep you accountable. So I would encourage everybody here to think of one financial goal you may want to share with somebody about something you want to do early next year or yet this year, okay? So start a money club. Make a weekly appointment to review your budget. This is so critical. If you don't look at your budget and your spending except at the end of the month, do you have much opportunity to make an adjustment? No. So if you're really, really starting to get serious about it, you really should start to look at those receipts and things at least once a week, and a minimum twice a week. Okay? Because if you don't look at it frequently, it just doesn't give you enough time to do things. How about automating your savings and automating paying your bills? Anybody have that chronic friend who's always running to go pay the bill directly at the place because it's, about to be cut off or something like that? What normally is associated when we pay our bills late? Late fees. Late fees, exactly. And so those late fees, $5, $10, etc., they kind of add up, and that's just money we're just giving away. Those late fees are things we're just giving away. Also, look for ways to save money. Couponing, looking for 2-for-1 deals, etc. And we're going to talk about this when we get to the credit session. Some things we don't want to do just because they offer you to open a credit card, and get 10% savings. We don't want to do those kind of savings. Okay. And then right now, look at ways to lower your fixed costs. In the telephone industry, there's a war going on for new customers. Everyone notice what's going on with Verizon and AT&T? Give you $100 to bring your account over from Verizon to AT&T. Guess what? You probably don't even have to move your account. All you probably need to do is call them and say, I'm evaluating, considering changing carriers. I'd like to know what you're going to do for me. And if you're currently paying $50, $60 a month and they lower that to $40 a month, is that worth one phone call? That's available to you right now. There's a war out there in the telecom industry. There's a war out there in the cable packages. It's something about all those utilities, when you sign up and they change packages, they don't call you and tell you you can have some savings. You have to call them and kind of say, hey, am I on your best package? Am I on your best package? And you might be amazed what they may do to try to retain you, because they might think you want to go to Dish from Time Warner. So call your basic utility places and see if they have some good offerings for you. AT&T for internet. I changed it for my business last year and they gave me a credit on UVerse for 1 year. I didn't pay anything for 1 year to move from Time Warner to UVerse. So there's deals out there. Pick up the phone. I challenge you to do that this week. I guarantee you can save money on your cell phone, your internet, and your cable, if you have it, just by making a couple phone calls. All right, so sometimes our budget doesn't quite come up to everything we would like. There might be a little shortfall. We've written everything down, but unfortunately when we do all that, we say, wow, there's a few more expenses than I have income. That does happen from time to time. So we have to decide how we're going to adjust our goals to handle those circumstances. So I went kind of fast because I want to make sure that we covered the slides, but now I really want to try to answer any questions you might have on budgeting.
Is there anything on business budgeting?
Not in this section, but do you have a question? Maybe I can just try off the top of my head.
Just
Okay, all right. Business budgeting, the fundamentals are the same. The fundamentals really are the same, whether it's a business, a household, a church, etc. We have to know what our income is, what we want to expend, and where our source is going to come from. Building a budget is just kind of like brick by brick, making layers of knowing where we are. Sometimes, though, with a business, you have to decide what I'm going to do to kind of increase my sales or my marketing and things like that. Are you in business right now? Or looking to start one?
in and out, working at, just in home.
Okay, that's a good place to start, because sometimes people go sign a lease and they take on too much overhead, and then they have made their expenses high and haven't let their income catch up with it yet. So starting a home-based business is a great place to go. And then maybe you want to move into a smaller scale incubator, something like down to Tech Town or places like that that have small offices that give you those services of a shared receptionist and things like that, where you have an office and it moves you to be around other people. When you work at home, sometimes you get a little isolated. So move into an incubator section might be the next step, and then from home to the incubator to your own lease. So doing everything in increments is smart, safe, and prepared you to be successful. Any other questions?
Percentage should you pay yourself? They're different.
Oh, okay. Great question. Did everybody hear that? What percentage should you pay yourself? I think that would equate somewhat to the savings. So 5 to 10%, if you want to be aggressive, 15 to 20. Obviously depends on how much income you have and what your expenses are. If you have a great job, it's something about when you have a job and then you get a raise, sometimes what do? We just raise our standard of living, right? We used to be really happy when we had, you know, this apartment and this level and what have you, but we get a raise, or our husband gets a raise, and we just move to another level of obligations. And you think back, wow, I used to live on so little. How did I do that? And guess what? I was so much happier sometimes too, even when I didn't have all those obligations. So one of the things to do is when you do have an increase, is try to decide, am I going to put that increase towards myself or my savings? Also, how many people perhaps maybe haven't saved as much as they would like, and there's a lot of catch-up opportunities available for IRAs and things like that now too, for people who are over 50. The IRS is definitely giving us some incentives to say, hey, maybe you didn't fund your IRA or your 401k as aggressively as you should have a few years back. We're going to give you some incentive to do so, and there's some additional levels for people over 50 for IRA contributions. Definitely take advantage of that. And even if you can't fund your IRA by December 31st, you know you can fund it as late as April 15th when you file your taxes. So you have 3.5 months still to plan for those savings. So don't think if you haven't done it by December 31st that you can't do it. You have all the way to April 15th of 2015 to fund your IRA. And that's reduce your taxes too. Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard of the envelope system? And if you have, do you think it's a great thing to do?
I think it's a great system. Yeah, the envelope system, we do that a lot of times with young people and adults because some people are visual learners. And if they see it in the envelope, it's real easy to say, hey, I got my paycheck here for $200 and I know what I want to do with it. I'm going to put this in the food envelope, this in the clothing envelope, this in the housing envelope, and the savings envelope. It works. Things that are basic work. Absolutely. They do. They do. The other thing, of course, in addition to the envelope system, is there's an app for everything, right? There's an app for everything. Let me just see your phone for a second. You know, download your app and write it down, or as you go to the store and you take a picture of the receipt, it automatically populate it for it. So that's the other spectrum. Neither one's better than the other. The envelope or the app, both of them, if you put it in and you study it and you make adjustments, will give you the outcomes you're looking for. Good question. Any other questions? Now, budgeting, like I said, this wouldn't be anything revolutionary. We all know the basics of budgeting. My challenge is that a few more people will next time raise their hand saying they have a formal budget, that they've moved from the mental budget to a written budget, because that's going to empower you to really, really, really see where your money is going and to kind of measure your outcomes. And it's exciting to kind of see when you're making progress, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, it's exciting to say that I decided to save 10% for me and see how that easy it is, and to see it grow and have a goal attached to it. That's exciting. It's exciting to say I want to help someone else as well. That's very exciting. It's powerful, powerful, powerful to put things in writing. It's very powerful to put things in writing. So that's our little budget section. Pastor, or?
I have
Oh, another question. Okay.
one more. Is it beneficial to do a zero-based budget?
What do you mean by that for the group?
Putting all your monies into certain sections of your budget to equal zero.
So if you mean, if I'm hearing, let me restate your question.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you take all of your income and you want to spend it down to zero.
Yes.
And as long as those categories that we talked about are still within your guidelines, and you include the things we talked about, savings for yourself, something for the church, spending down to zero is great. The other way that might be when you're challenging yourself, it may also highlight, wow, I guess I have a shortfall because I want to do all these things and I'm not getting to zero, I'm getting to a negative.
Yeah.
And I might have to adjust. Or the opposite could be, you say, wow, I've been so conservative, I have an excess. So can I put more money into savings or looking at paying something off? You know, that's a good question. Sometimes we talk about save, save, save. But one of the other things to do too is if you do have a debt, such as your house or your car or a credit card, making an extra payment to those is as powerful as saving. Because if I can get rid of an obligation, that's going to do me a twofer, if you will. I'm going to get rid of that obligation quicker. I'm going to pay less interest. And you want to have a safety net for sure, but don't forget about making sure you're retiring your debt on an accelerated fashion as well. So sometimes just one extra payment a year can be a powerful impact. For example, on a traditional 30-year mortgage, say you pay $300 a month for your mortgage. Do you realize if you made that 13th payment every year of $300 instead of 12 payments of $300, you made 13 payments of $300, you can amortize that mortgage in about 14 to 16 years. I have to look up the number exactly. Cut it about in half just by making that 13th payment. Isn't that powerful? I mean, you don't really think of an extra $300 being a lot, but it is, because you're putting it on the front when the interest is the highest, and those are the little tricks that allow you to do some things painlessly. Painlessly. If you do that, though, make sure when you send in that payment, you want to tell Ally or Chase or whoever, I want to apply it to my principal. Right. Absolutely. And then you want to, every year at the end of the year, look at that statement to make sure that they did what you directed them to do. Same thing when you want to pay off an obligation. Request an amortization statement. You want to make sure they did apply all your payments and they did all apply them properly. They make mistakes. They make mistakes. So you want to, watch them and make sure they're maintaining your money like you want them to. Patricia.
Could you give the general definition of amortization?
Oh, good question. She asked me, what was the general definition of amortization? Amortization is just a simple word for retiring a balance. You have a balance that you owe for $10,000 on a car. You're going to be making payments, so each one of those payments, a little bit's going to go to the balance, and in the beginning, a lot goes to the interest. Towards the end of the term, it's kind of the inverse. Most of it goes to the interest, and most of it goes to the principal, and very little goes to the interest. So it's just a fancy word to say retiring the balance. So you want to look at that every year to see, hey, in this 12 months, did they apply my payments properly? Great question. Did I answer the question? Yes, ma'am.
And trying to pay off your debt, like say you have credit cards versus, your loan on your house, is it wise to combine and add things onto your house to get rid of the credit card debt versus just trying to pay off the credit card debt?
Well,
combining your
without looking at the particulars, I would venture a guess that would say credit card debts normally are going to be smaller amounts. And the traditional advice would be to pay those off separately and rapidly. Pick maybe the one that is the smallest amount and just put everything you have into retiring that amount. Now, of course, it depends on the interest rate. If you had a home equity loan that had an interest rate of 3 to 5%, and you had a credit card obligations at 18 to 21%, then it may make sense to do that. But you definitely don't want to get in that cycle of people chasing the 0% financing, and then they take out another credit card and that whole loop, because generally speaking, no one wins in that except the card companies. So you would kind of need to analyze it on a case-by-case basis, but generally speaking, being more aggressive on paying off the credit card would be my typical advice without seeing any particular numbers. Yes, sir.
It's kind of hard sometimes for us to discipline our money. I think you were talking about the $300. It's probably best for some people to pay the $325 a month and come out with the same thing.
Did everybody hear he's right. The principle is the same, because you're right. If consistency of doing everything disciplined and in order monthly would be definitely better than doing things occasionally. So if you know your money personality, and we all have one, if you know your money personality is that, hey, I can be much better with taking off something every month consistently, I'll definitely do what you said. If you're the kind of person that knows, hey, whenever I get a bonus from work, or I get my tax refund, I love the feeling of retiring that, you know, on an obligation. It's just something about when you start to do it, how it just gets to be addictive.
Just one more little comment on that.
Yes, sir.
I think if you do that, you probably save yourself about 8 years.
You all hear that number? Okay. And obviously, we're talking about the assumption we're doing it from the beginning. You know, we're doing it from the beginning, but it's never too late. It's never too late to start. Never too late to start. Any other questions? Okay, well, we're going to let you all stand up and get a quick little stretch, 7th inning stretch or something like that. I think there's some refreshments for you in the back, and then we're going to pivot and go to the credit presentation. So about 5 minutes. About 5 minutes.
5 minutes, and then take a bathroom break and help yourself to the snack table.
Retirement income, where I'm going to live a whole different kind of lifestyle. The days of pensions and all those things, are those kind of over? Yeah, we used to go work for GE or NCR or big places and retire with a pension. Pretty much that's over with. Pretty much it's over with. They're relying on you to take your 401k and do your own savings, and maybe with Social Security and your other investments, that's what you have to plan to retire with. You can't plan on your pension anymore. Okay, so the slides are up, so now you have another credit book, a little brown book. So let's talk about credit a little bit. Okay, so the importance of good credit, as we touched upon informally, it touches every part of your life anymore. Jobs, insurance, obviously deciding to borrow. Your credit history touches a lot of things. We're going to talk about the types of credit. We're going to talk about credit cards. We're going to talk about what's on the credit report and what's not on the credit report. There's some myths out there of what's on your credit report. And most important, in this cyber age, protecting your credit. Because identity theft is real. Identity theft, and it can cause havoc. Anybody ever been a victim of identity? Ooh, your hands. Okay. Well, when we get to that section, I'll let you all kind of share some stories with us. I haven't had that experience, and I hope I never do. But I know it's harrowing. I know it's harrowing. I've got 4 hands went up. Okay, so again, some basic terms. The first one is capacity. A lender wants to know your ability to repay. Okay? There's a lot of C's here. That never ever happened to you, but has anyone ever heard the word charge off, or obligation has been charged off? Okay, that means someone owed someone some money, things did not get paid as promised, and after a certain amount of time, after a certain amount of phone calls and letters and all those kind of things, the lender wrote it off. They charged it off. That could mean it went away for you or did not go away for you, okay? Because they might charge it off, say Bank One charged it off, and then they sell it to another company for pennies on the dollar, and that company attempts to collect the bill, okay? So just because they charged it off doesn't mean the obligation's gone away, okay? Collateral. Hey, I want to borrow something from this nice young lady. She wants to know I have what? Some collateral. You should see her face. She said, she wants to know if I have some collateral. So what is some collateral? What is collateral? What kind of collateral would you want from me if I wanted to? She wants to hold my purse. So say I was going to buy a car from her. And if I was going to buy a car from her, what would you probably want to do with the car? Would you hold that as collateral, put a lien on it? She put a lien on it. Okay, collateral is going to be something of value that hopefully if I would default on the obligation, she knows she can turn it to the collateral and be made whole. Very good. Co-signers. Is that a dangerous situation? Yes. Who I think I have some witnesses, some testimonies in the room. Okay, what is a co-signer? All right, so I come to her, mommy, please, I need this new car and I need some help. I promise I can pay this obligation. And I'm her favorite daughter, and she gets weak and she signs the papers. And then I go to New York City and have a wonderful time, And then they start calling her house and my house too. But I know mommy's gonna take care of it. And so if you co-sign for anybody, you should make sure you know that you're willing to pay that amount if they don't. If you co-sign, you need to make sure I'm in for this for the whole way, regardless of what they do. That should be your decision-making process, not what they promise, not what their capacity is, because that can change. You have to say, in my budget, if this goes wrong, can I handle this obligation myself? Otherwise, mother has to give me some what? Tough love. Mother has to give me some tough love, say, I love you, I want you to empower you, go do your own thing. Exactly. Okay, a creditor is someone that we owe. A credit report, think of it as like a long report card. How many people ever had an old Sears and Roebuck credit card? Okay, a few hands. If you had a Sears credit card or whatever, some old department stores were here, it could still be on your credit report. It's your first thing that you ever did. It's like your transcript. It's anything and everything. Credit reporting agencies, there are three big ones. TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. We're going to talk about this a little more. TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax are the big three. There's some other minor ones, but those are the big three. Credit score, we're going to talk about that in a lot more detail. A lien is when something of value puts a cloud on your title. You know, it could be a lien on your house, lien on your car, lien on your tractor. Permissible purpose. Anybody know what that is? It means a person that looks at your credit score has to have a legitimate reason to do so. Either you have decided you want me to lend you money, so therefore that's my permissible purpose, root word permission, permissible purpose, or I have already lent you money and we're 2 or 3 years into this obligation and I want to from time to time look at your credit to make sure things are still stable. So even after we're into the loan, the credit card company can look at your credit report to make sure things are still copacetic. But they have to have a reason. I can't just look at your credit report without your permission. I don't have a permissible reason. So there has to be a connection. Repossession, something didn't happen right, the bank comes and takes it back. APR is the cost of borrowing money. I'm going through these quickly, we're going to come back to them again. Periodic rate would be the amount for that fixed period. Annual fees. You know, banks and things like now make a lot of money off of fees. Okay, so credit cards, you need to evaluate the fees. You might have one with no fees. You might have American Express at $75 a year for the green card. And then he wants the gold card, that's $200 a year. She wants the black card, and that's $500 a year just to have a status card. Okay, so for that status of putting down a green American Express or a gold American Express or a black American Express or a platinum American Express, all have a different price point. They also have some little perks in there too, but basically it's a way for them to earn fee income. Grace period. Do all credit cards have a grace period? Not all, but pretty much have some, but not all. Not all. The better ones will. The better credit cards that are pretty on the up and up will say, hey, you bought something today. If you pay off the balance in full, there'll be no interest within the grace period. If you go over that, if you go over that, we have the ability to charge you finance charges for the use of our money. Okay, so that's a quick glossary. Let's go a little more. Okay, so the importance of good credit. What is credit now? Let's just talk about the real fundamentals. What does that look like when you buy something on credit? She just shared with me, I'm getting off to me a good story. She just finished her schooling. Okay, so if I sent my daughter to school and maybe I couldn't pay everything I might take out a student loan, right? And so here's the good and the bad about student loans. You don't have to pay anything, generally speaking, while a person's in school. What's happening on that little interest rate meter? It's still accumulating. Okay, so I think they give you about 60 to 90 days maybe after you get out of school, regardless if you have a job or not, before you have to start making those payments. So ideally, even with a student loan, if you have the ability, start paying on them immediately. But as soon as that school period is over, you will definitely have to begin paying. So basically, credit is saying I'm going to do something now, and I'm going to pay that over time. It could be a short window, or it could be a long window. Mortgages may be 30 years, cars, 12 months, etc. Okay, so we talked about this briefly, but let's go back over this. Credit can affect your employment. If you're working somewhere like GE, and I have a bad credit score, will I probably get a good job? Will I get a job there? Well, why not? I have great typing skills and everything else, and I have a pleasing personality, but my credit score is 500. She said, I can forget that, then I can going to call me. Because they think, obviously, I don't know how to use credit properly, so why should I be in the credit arena? Okay, so that can go into an employment decision. Living accommodations. A landlord wants to know as well, do I have a good credit risk? Financing rates, we're going to talk about that more. But, is credit card a bad thing all the time? Is it a convenience? Is it something we can use properly? Can you go on a trip, rent a car without a credit card? No. It's very challenging. So there's definitely reasons we need a credit card to make our life easier. Do you want to carry cash everywhere you go? No. So it's definitely some pluses for a credit card. Very good. Okay, so most common types of credits are the following. Short-term credit would be something that's going to pay back in a year or less. So think of that as a year or less. Installment credit. Anybody want to venture a guess what installment credit is? Pretty much going to be a fixed amount for a certain amount of time. It could be a mortgage. It could be a car. You're going to say, I'm going to pay 12 months, $300 a month for a certain amount of time. So you know, back to the budget, that that's a fixed, regular interval. Now revolving, as the name implies, it changes. It may be your Macy's bill that you revolve. You may have nothing on it this month, but you go Christmas shopping, you may have something on it, and they give you the option to pay it in full or to pay a monthly payment. So that revolves. And for that privilege of paying it over time, what do they charge? Interest. Okay, you see this little visual that says payday advances. Is that a good form of credit? No. It's like quicksand. It's quicksand. And what's the other one that we're seeing pop up everywhere?
Title
loans. Exactly. All the former little places that used to be the nice little restaurants are now title loans. So you have a nice free and clear car. You go in there and show them your title. They give you a modest amount of money, and I do mean modest. They put a lien on your automobile, and they're kind of banking on that you're not going to be able to pay that back. They know that they're probably a lender of last resort, and they charge you some exorbitant rates, and they have the ability to take the transportation. So payday lenders, title loan lenders, avoid at all costs. Avoid at all costs. Okay, now, the most popular type of credit cards are revolving ones. So we have two basic kinds. Think of your American Express, which is a total convenience card. You can use it this month. You can spend up to what they say there's no limits, but there's some parameters. You can use it for those dollar amounts, and then they send you a statement, and you are to pay them in full. Okay. The total amount. Everything you spent, $500, send them a check for $500. No finance charges on that. The other would be, say, a Visa or a MasterCard, which is probably going to give you the option. Okay, those are basic two big categories. All right? Now, something happened in 2009 when President Obama came into the office. In addition to the other things he did, he said, I'm going to look at what's going on in the finance industry. How many people remember you took your children to college, or nieces or nephews, and there were just tables and tables around with all kind of credit card offers? Okay, they were just everywhere. Before they even got to the bookstore, before you got to the bookstore or bought a new t-shirt or anything, all the credit card companies were there. Okay, that has gone away. In 2009, under the new regulations, not saying that they can't get a loan at all, but they at least have to demonstrate they have an income. Does that make sense? Yeah, they need to demonstrate the young adults who are going to college, or even if they're not going to college, the young adults have the capacity to repay a loan. They also did some other things, eliminating some of those tricky bills. You know, there used to be double billing cycles, no grace periods are not clearly stipulated. And now, the language on a new credit card offering has taken away a lot of that legal ease. You pretty much can look at your statement and it will tell you clearly what your APR is. It will also tell you, if you pay just the minimum payment this month, this is going to take you 12 years to pay off. That didn't happen before 2009. So that was all a result of what happened because of the crash that happened in 2008 and some of the things that happened under Dodd-Frank and under President Obama's administration. So these were good things that happened in the credit card industry. Now, credit card companies are pretty smart. How many times a month do you throw away junk mail from credit card companies? Just about every month, right? Well, that's expensive to mail something. Why don't they just keep mailing you something every single month? Wow. They know you're going to one day break down. Exactly. You've been throwing away faithfully every single month. Every single month you tear it up, you shred it, etc. But yesterday, the pipe froze because of the winter storm we had. And someone comes out and say, wow, you have water in your water line. It's going to take $5,000 for us to repair this. And even though you've been budgeting, you have everything in your unexpected category, didn't quite have $5,000. Or did you didn't want to use it in that fashion right now because you had other things coming up. And so here's the new shiny credit card offer, and today you say, well, you know, maybe this will help me out. That's why they do it. That's why they know that time's on their side. I can send this to you for 12 months, 24 months, 36 months, and for most people, eventually, something will come up that they say, you know what, I kind of need this outlet. If you use it wisely, it could be a good thing. If you take every offer, not a good thing. Not a good thing. So you're going to get offers, so you want to evaluate them, you want to look at the APR, you want to see if there's an annual percentage rate, is there a fee question?
And you want to be careful because a lot of credit card companies, when you buy something in the store, HH Grade, anybody, they put you on a promotion, and if you don't read your contract, you don't know you're on a promotion. So if you don't have that paid off within 6 months, 12 months, whatever, then you're going to get all those fees added back on your bill from that, and then you're going to continue to get it until you pay it off. But a lot of people don't even know they're on a promotion.
Did everybody hear her comment? You know, you go in there and they give you a great promotion, 60 days, same as cash, and you don't read the fine print, and you didn't pay it off in 60 days, and it zooms up to 21%, or it may even go all the way back to the first day that you bought it.
All that, yeah.
Yeah, so read, be an informed consumer. Absolutely. Okay, so the other kind of fees, over the limit fees, you use your credit card. You say, well, why do they authorize it? If I'm over my limit, why do they authorize it? So they can charge you a
Well,
fee.
they got to do now. They can't charge you the over limit. They either got to charge you a late fee or over limit.
Okay.
Back in the day, a couple of years ago, before Obama, they could do both.
They can do both. So you're right. So there's been some changes. It used to be too, even with our, you sent through NFS check. They used to kind of play games where they would pay, let's see, what you may think about it. They would pay the large one, take your balance down, and not pay your little checks, and hit you with a fee for each one. So that's changed too, where they can only give you a certain amount of fees. We don't want to be in that category nevertheless, but you do want to be aware. Okay, so the thing about your credit report is when you're about to get new credit, you're going to formally sign up some type of credit application to determine if you are credit worthy. And they're going to rely on your credit report. So let's see what's on a credit report. All right, these are the big three. And all this is in your book, by the way. the numbers and how to reach them. Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Now, do you know you can get a free credit report annually? Okay. Do you get it from that cute place that has a nice little jingle, freecreditreport.com? Those are free? No, they're not. That's a cute jingle, but it's not free. Okay, I'm going to show you where you can really get a free credit report. The power of marketing, we all remember that commercial. It hasn't even been on for a long time. But these are the big three. Now, if you're applying for a loan or a house, are they probably going to pull all three credit reports? Yes. Will they all have the same information? No. Will they all have the same credit score? No. It can vary widely. It can vary widely. So you want to be armed with facts and know what's on your credit report before you go shopping for a major transaction. Okay, now this is where you can get a free credit report. Annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com. You can get a free one. And again, the reference to that is in your book. Now, I told you there were 3 major credit reporting agencies. So this is one trick you could do. You could pull a credit report from all 3 major agencies maybe 3 different times a year. So say January 1, you get one from TransUnion. 4 months later, you want to look at it again, go get the one from Experian. 4 more months later, go to Equifax. That allows you to kind of keep a pulse on your credit report 3 times a year for free. Any questions on that? This is really important. So if you haven't pulled it lately, and you have access to the internet tonight in the morning, go pull your credit report. Alrighty? If you have any questions or difficulties, call that number. What you might have difficulty occasionally, they're going to try to validate who you are. So they may ask you a question like, have you ever lived at one of these addresses? You know, one that's legitimate and other ones. Or did you used to own a car, et cetera, et cetera. And if those questions don't answer, they may not allow you to access it. But you can get help at this 800 number. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
This free number, do they give you your credit score?
They will give you the credit report, but not the score. Yeah, not the score. Great question. But yeah, you can pick. You can pick. Yeah, when you go on this, it'll give you the logos for all 3, and you can decide which one you want. Okay? All right, so what is in your credit report? Basically, it looks like this. I don't know if there's a little laser here. It's going to have all this different information, but let's talk about what's in it. The main thing they want to know is, do you pay your obligations on time? You know, you had these obligations. Did you pay it on time? How often were you late? Were you late by 30 days, 60 days, 120 days? It's your transcript. The other variable is, I have a $1,000 credit card. How much of that have I used? Okay, I have $1,000. Do I owe $1,000? Do I owe $500? The sweet spot, write this down. The sweet spot for getting the best part of your credit score calculation is not to have more than 33% out on your credit card. So let's do an example. You have a $1,000 credit card, and I owe $750. Is that the sweet spot? No. Okay, well, I'm pretty good. I owe $500. Is that good? It's better. But now I owe $320. Is that the best place or less? Yes. The best place or less is it's a third. Okay, so that's where you kind of want to be ideally. Now, what is in a credit report is where you work, public records. Okay, now there's a lot of different kinds of public records. There's criminal public records, or there's records about how you handle your obligation, or if you have a bankruptcy, or if you had a discharge. Which one of those are on your credit report? Bankruptcies, or anything that's been filed in the public domain. Criminal records are not on your credit report. Is your race on your credit report? No. Your race is not on your credit report. No, it is not, okay? All right, so some of the things that we may think of that may be on your credit report are not. All right, so here are the five major sections. Your address, anything that's on the public records, like bankruptcies, charge-offs, collections, things that a lot of people have on collections and they're afraid of. Medical bills. Especially before ACA, affordable health care, people didn't have health insurance. A lot of people had write-offs on the collection side for medical bills. Don't be afraid of that. In the scoring, those are not the same kind of drag on your credit score as an obligation to Macy's or a car, etc. Medical bills are there, but they don't have the same negative drag on your score, okay? And then here's the biggest area of importance. Your trade lines. How much you owe, how have you paid, how long have you had it, etc. And then other people want to know about you, so they do inquiries. And so they may look in your credit report. We're going to talk about this as well, how to do this the smart way if you're going to shop for something new. You don't want to have a lot of people doing new inquiries unnecessarily. All right, so that's a sample credit report. Any questions? Great. Okay, so again, what's not in your credit report is your sex, your race, your color, your marital status, your religion, your age, your national origin. Those are things that are not on your credit report. Now, age, obviously, you can probably back into it a little bit by seeing how long some of your oldest obligations are or when you started to work, but it does not state that I'm 21 years old, I'm 21 years old, etc. So again, none of those things are on it. Now, do you think mistakes happen on your credit report? Absolutely. Have you ever had a personal experience? Okay, what's a kind of common mistake?
I had something on there, what was mine?
Things that are on your report that may not belong to you. Did you have your hand up as well?
Yeah. My
Same thing happened to you?
dad got the same name.
Yeah, people with the same name, junior and senior, common name. My name is Gail Johnson. Whenever I buy a house, I have to sign an affidavit. I'm not that Gail Johnson. Yeah, so definitely have things like that that happen all the time. So you have to be diligent and check your credit report to make sure it's accurate. If you find a mistake, you call the agency and they at least have to respond to you. You have to do it in writing or you can call for them to get that off. Do you need to retain a credit repair clinic to help you with this?
No.
No. Those are just people who want to take $300 or $400 or $500 from you so that you can easily do yourself. It may take a little time, but you can do it yourself. Absolutely. Okay. All right. All right, now it's test time. Which of these things would be on your credit report? If you were late on an obligation, would that be on your credit report?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Your employment information?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Where you work? Where you work? Yeah, it would be. Okay, that's what we're reviewing. Great. Your on-time payments you made on the department store?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Your birthday?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Okay, remember what I said about age?
Yes.
Your birthday? No. Okay, good. Your race? No. Okay. So there's a lot of things that we kind of
Go to
think
church.
intuitively might be on there that aren't, okay? So again, it's about your payment history. What have you done? Okay, very good. Okay, identity theft. We have about 4 hands that went up. That's probably better than anything on this slide. What's some of your war stories? Anybody want to share what happened with your identity theft?
Somebody was spending money out of my account from Jerusalem, Israel.
From Jerusalem, Israel. How long did it take before you identified the problem?
Well, I walked into the bank and the guy asked me, "Was you in Israel yesterday?" And I just kind of looked at him,
Okay.
you know. So immediately, yeah.
Immediately, so you didn't get too far down the pipe. Great. How about you?
Mine was a couple of months ago. I got a call, I have a credit protection service. I got a call from them asking me, have I spent such and such in Maryland? Was I in Louisville, Kentucky the next day? Did I spend this? Someone got my swipe card off my credit card and spent almost $1,000. But I did retrieve it back within 8 to 10 days from my
But it
bank.
still was a hassle, I bet. Yeah. Patricia?
Mine was cyber this summer. I was looking on my bank statement online, and there were $10, $50 charges from Starbucks. I'm like, I don't even go to Starbucks hardly, so I called right away, and someone in Washington State had some kind of way gone online and got my information, and they had $10, $50, $500 worth of Starbucks gift certificates.
Yeah, and they'll start small and kind of see. I bet you have some things you can
Yeah,
share.
I did. I had a small, it was like somebody donated, it was like $1 something to a charity or something, and they called me and told me that, and I was like, it makes sense to me, but they had to change the whole card because they said somebody was testing it.
Yeah, they'll test it.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. My sister lives in Nashville, and her husband's car got broken into last week. And his golf clubs were in there, Roger. His golf clubs were in there, and a watch and his wallet. And so someone took his wallet and went to whatever they have, Piggy Wiggly or something there, got something to eat, and then got a movie on the red box. And so when my sister woke up, she had an email saying, "We rented a movie at 3 o'clock in the morning." So that by that foolishness, they originally found out someone had stolen. That was identity theft, but people will do anything. They'll do anything. So check your information. As the young lady back there said, put a fraud alert on your credit report so you're known. Your bank also will notify if your patterns change. The other way too, if you know you're going overseas or you're going somewhere for Thanksgiving, call them and let them know, hey, I'm going to be in the New York area for the next week. They'll validate that who you are so you won't be inconvenienced. This point, however, is very important. If you have fraud, you need to file a credit report with file a police report. File a police report so that if there are any full consequences, you have shown, hey, this was not me, I'm taking it through the legal process, so be sure to file a police report. And if that doesn't work, go on to the FTC. All right, now, how to maximize your credit score. You see this little pie here. The most important part is how you pay your bills. Okay, so if your credit score is not where you want it to be right now, the things that you can do to start to improving that with the next payment you make is paying your bills on time. That represents, you get a little closer, about 35% of your score, paying your bills on time. The next largest category is your total debt outstanding. Remember when I gave our little example about the sweet spot is about a third? So when you're looking for how much debt you have out, try to keep that under 30%. 50% maybe, but certainly not maxed out, as we use that word. Try not to max out your credit cards. Okay, the next thing is the length of your credit history is 15%. So this is kind of a tricky area. Say, should you close your old credit cards that you don't use anymore? No, you shouldn't. Why? You might not be able to get them back open. It brings your score down because that's the length of your credit history. So even if you have an old Sears and Roebucks or a credit card you had from another state that you used to live in, etc., as long as no fees attached to it in particular, just keep it open. You maybe want to use it even once a year and pay it off, okay, but don't close it. And again, the next thing is the type of credit. Do you have all credit cards or do you have a mix of credit cards and maybe installment loan on a car and a mortgage? So they look at this mix and they go through this whole little algorithm. Now this is the other one. You see this one that says request for new credit? And I think this is in your book too where you see it a little up close. What page is that on? On page 9. Request for new credit. Obviously, from time to time, we are going to seek new credit. We may be applying for a new house. We may be looking for a car. But you want to do that smartly. If you know I'm going to look for a new car, don't just kind of randomly go look today for a little while and have that dealership pull your credit report and then wait, 30 days and go to another. Be deliberate and do it in about a 2-week period of time. Because each time someone goes in and pulls your credit report, it draws down your credit score. So you don't want to be casual about how many times you have inquiries.
And generally, if you're looking for a house or something like that, then they know if you're doing it within a certain period, that's what you're doing, so it really don't affect you to that.
Right, to that. But if you're looking for it, this month, and then it looks like things didn't go too well, I'm still looking, it starts to drag it down. So that's why when you go into the department stores and every time they want to offer you 10% off of the purchase today by opening a Macy's account or Elder Beerman's account, want to say no, because those are inquiries too, okay? So the big area is how you pay your bills on time, how you use your credit, and the limit. The one that you have the most control of is paying your bills on time. That's totally within your control. Isn't that exciting? All right. Now, your credit score can be adversely affected, however, based on a couple of things. You max out your credit card, you can lower your score anywhere from 10 to 30 points by maxing out a couple credit cards. You're 30 days late. That doesn't sound like much. You're 30 days late on one obligation. That can lower your score 60 to 80 points. Okay, the next thing, wow, I just went through a rough spot. I settled an obligation. It's better than not paying it at all, but that's going to drag down your score 45 to 60 points. Foreclosures. That's another big one. It's going to take you down 85 to 105 points. And then bankruptcies, 130 to 150 points. Now that's the bad news. Anybody ever bought a house that was foreclosed? Anybody ever bought a house foreclosed? What's one of the telltale signs? You go to a house that's for sale that's been foreclosed. You see unopened mail. You see mail sitting there that people didn't open. People get into financial trouble and they just stop dealing with it. Instead of opening their mail, picking up the phone, and calling to try to start a workout plan, they avoid it. So if you get kind of a jam, the thing to do is face our fear and open it. Make a phone call. The environment is totally different than it used to be. Lenders used to be pretty black and white. Now they're sort of kind of gentler, where they would do some workout plans. You know, don't avoid it. Pick up the phone and call them. The other thing, if you do have some of these things that happen, think about you're like a ship in the dock. You can see the ship when you're the closest to the dock. But each year, think about your credit report figuratively. You get further away from that bankruptcy or the foreclosure, it has less impact on you. So the first year of bankruptcy, bad. Second year, a little less so. So don't be afraid. You can just get back on the horse and start rebuilding your credit. The biggest thing is to pull the credit report, see where we are, and start working towards a new tomorrow. Okay. What if you were denied credit? Are you entitled to an explanation?
Yes.
Yes. So if you went to H.H. Gregg and they turned you down, you're probably going to get a letter that says this was based on the TransUnion credit report. Call them and ask for a copy of it and see if it was accurate and start from there. But you're definitely always entitled to a credit report or an explanation. All righty? Now, we're going to kind of start thinking of how to wrap up here about establishing good credit. We talked about a budget. That's one of the beginning places because you're going to know you have an obligation. Sticking to it and trying to decide how to pay those obligations. Number one, what? On time. And then also, if you can, pay it off a little quicker. And then you're also not going to max out your credit cards. Pay your small amount of your total debt first. There's something psychological about paying off that bill that just makes you feel really good. Don't have a lot of unnecessary credit cards open. You probably need a convenience credit card, maybe a department store, but you really don't need multiple ones. It's a temptation to get into too much trouble. You want to show that you're stable and responsible and keep the balances as low as possible. And here's a little trick. Let's think about it. If you know you're about to apply for a loan and you have some savings, that might be a good time to make sure you get your balances lower, before you just go pull your credit report, when you're seeking new credit. So that's another thing you do. It only takes one 30-day cycle to improve it. It's really kind of a silly game, really. All right, so if you need some additional help, there are a lot of resources here on the wall. Most importantly, they're here in the book. So, a lot of information. Financial information is not the most fun stuff in the world, but it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. And it's very empowering, very, very empowering, because it lets you create your goals, do the things you want to do. So are there any questions? Yes, ma'am. Bankruptcies stay on for 10 years, foreclosures for 7. But again, that first year is going to have the maximum number of points, and then it kind of weans its way down. Okay? So, face it, wherever we are, or someone else in your family. And the other thing I say, I don't have young people in here, but something that happens in our community a lot too is parents or grandparents that might open an account in a young person's name, you know, trying to do what's right for the family, keeping utility bills on and things like that. They put the DPNL bill in the child's name. If they have the bad habits for themselves, they're probably going to have the bad habits in the child's name. So really help a person out by looking at your child's credit if you know that's going on. They don't have to be responsible for those obligations. But that happens quite a bit sometime in our community. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You can get a, not a question, but a comment. You can get your, one of the bureaus through Credit Karma. You can get for free.
Okay. Did you all hear that? Another resource he mentioned, Credit Karma. I'm not familiar with that one, but let's check it out. Let's check it out, Credit Karma. Yes, sir.
I have another comment, kind of like that. If you have a credit card, ask them if they have insurance for loss of income. I had a credit card that has some insurance. They'll freeze all fees, all payments, everything with that insurance plan if you have that on that credit card.
So you can have protection in the event that you lose or loss of job. I think we're passing along the little evaluation that we need to turn into Ally just to demonstrate that we were here tonight. So if you'd be so kind to complete those, and you can leave them on the table in the rear as we're going out. Any closing comments, any additional questions? We're just passing out one, so let's mark on your paper if you would that we're doing the budget and credit. So if you put X by both marks, budget and credit. Because we did two sessions tonight. We did the budget and the credit. That would be wonderful. And again, if anyone who didn't receive the ARP pamphlets, we have them. We have a few extras. If you'd like to take them to anyone else, this applies to anyone over 50.
And this is Gail Johnson, G-A-I-L Johnson, and the location is at Maranatha, Gail.
G-A-R, let's see.
And then hosted by would be the marriage ministry
The links. The links, yeah. So let's go over that, everybody. Okay. Where it says facilitator, you can put Gail Johnson. Where it says location, you can put here, or the name of the church, that'd be great. And hosted by links, that would be fine. Great. I appreciated you all's time tonight. I'm really excited about the people who came out. We had snow on the ground, and I know we had, you know, maybe a few others we were expecting, but I know the people who are here tonight were the people who are serious and are ready to get really charged up about their budget and credit and things like that.
And we really appreciate it, Gail. Let's give her a round. There's several other topics, maybe, 6 months down the road, auto buying and.
We have auto section and banking and investing.
Right.
That's in this same program.
But like you said, on the internet, on their website, they have a course that you can do quizzes, continue to go over the information until it's ingrained in your brain and really become second nature, to really help you with credit, understanding credit, how to use it, as well as that budget, the all-important budget is very important. We really appreciate you, Gail, for your time. And so thank you all for braving the storm and the cold weather. More details to come, excuse me, on the series, because as we all know, our pastor is very serious about our financial health and for us to understand, how to, be prosperous, how to really invest in our future, with our children, on top of that, because, we have to understand the Lord to teach them. So thank you again. Get some snacks on the way out. Leave your evaluations with my husband at the back. And any other questions or comments?
We found if we turn them in and mail them, we make sure you all get them done. People take them home sometime and need to mail them. We're talking about the ARP. We would prefer to mail them in for you. It's your choice. I mean, if you don't want to, but it's posted.